Cheers. Welcome to Culture Night,
where each week we drink fancy wine and watch movies that are in some way culturally significant. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sarah, and we are back for Season 5, Episode 9, and also the season finale of this rom-com season.
What a short season.
We started
several months
back in April.
And it's now August.
Yeah, I mean, it should have taken 9 weeks. That's still not no time, but
definitely had some breaks in the middle there. Summer got crazy.
Yes. So anyways, our podcast business tonight is that this is the season finale. We have watched, or will have watched by the end of this, 9 rom-com movies, and we've gone on quite a journey.
Kind of. The beginning of the season seems so long ago with like Breakfast at Tiffany's and 7 Year Itch, and I cannot believe that this is the same season.
I know. Hopefully this next season will go quicker, but honestly, going into the fall, I don't have high hopes. So stay with us. Anyways, we do have our season 6 theme or genre announcement.
Do we have a drum roll sound? Probably not.
Maybe. And our season 6 theme is
space.
Woo! I know it's such a long drum roll. I need to fix that, but that'll be us for season 7. Stay tuned.
So we'll be exploring movies that have to do with the theme of space.
Yes.
Outer space specifically, not just like the general like area.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Or like space bar, you
never know. Yeah. So we are jumping into space. We really had a lot of fun with sci-fi, but we realized that our true love in the sci-fi genre is specifically space. And we had a hard time not picking a bunch of these space movies that are on our list that we have right now. That we just felt like it needed a whole dedicated season.
So obviously ones we've covered before, like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, will not be on this coming season. If you're interested to see our thoughts on those movies, go back to season 4.
Yes, that was only the season before the one that we were currently on.
Okay.
So we have a list, I believe, already, but if there is a favorite space movie that you have, please send it our way.
Always open for suggestions.
So I think that about wraps up podcast business, and I think it's time to jump into what we're drinking tonight.
Tonight we are drinking
an undated...
We're going to guess like 2023, maybe.
I feel like we haven't gotten into the 23s yet. I'd say 21 or 22.
Tempranillo by 50 Provinces in España.
Yes. So I just have to brag on myself for a quick second. This is Victory Wine, as I like to call it. We participate in a 5K in our community every year. And every year since 2016, with the exception of 2018 and 2020, I have won the wine raffle at the end. I mean, a bunch of people win. I'm not the only person that wins, but I have won it every year between 2016 and this year. And this is my victory wine that I won this year.
You're just really good at raffles and it makes no sense.
I know it's like become a joke because it's with all my friends and family. It's become a joke because it's with all my friends and they're always like, oh my gosh, you're going to win this year. And the pressure was really mounting this year. I was like, I don't have it in me. And I was like, like the 5th or 6th person called in the raffle of like 20 plus people. So another wine check on my list.
So you could make the case that this is both the cheapest and, depending on how you look at it, most expensive wine we've had on the show, given that it was free and that you won it in a free raffle, but most expensive in that you had to run a 5K beforehand. And most people may consider that more expensive than...
More costly than the
$50.
actual wine. Yes. So, it was my victory wine. We'll see how it tastes. So that being said, we also don't actually know the price point of this wine at all. And we're just here to have a good time.
Like a bunch of jam on the nose.
I did notice it is
raspberry.
It has a very like almost maroon color. When I was pouring it, a lot of times, sometimes they're more purpley. I do find that like the Black Box and the Kirkland brand are more purple, but this was a very like dark red when it was being poured.
Getting like a Pop-Tart jam.
Oh, was I supposed to taste it yet?
Oh, you can go. I was just giving the nose there. You can taste it now.
Yeah, I get a strawberry Pop-Tart.
Fairly sweet. Not overwhelmingly sweet.
Yeah, not like a sweet wine, but has a sweeter note to it.
One of the sweeter wines we've had on this show, though. So if that's your thing, a little bit of spiciness to it. A little bite.
It's good. I mean, again, it's not like a sweet wine, like what I think of with like sweet wines. It does have sweeter flavors to it, and I'll be interested to see if we get kind of sick of it towards the end, if it's like too much sweetness for having a couple glasses. But it is really nice. I can't put my finger on what I like about it, but I like it.
A little bit of spiciness there. I'm interested to compare it to our after show wine too.
Oh, true. Always have to see how it stacks up to the box. All right. So with that, I think it is time to jump into Behind the Screens, where each week we go behind the big screens of Hollywood and learn more about some aspect of film production or storytelling. Take it away.
So there's not really much to cover this week. I was hoping to cover kind of the process of getting a movie taken from, or basically a story taken from book to movie. Because the last two movies we've watched, at least The Notebook and Crazy Rich Asians, were originally books and made into movies. Didn't really find much interesting on there. Kind of talks about getting a screenwriter and whatnot, and most of the articles I found about those movies specifically were just kind of like, oh, this person hired a scriptwriter and a director, and they put the cast together, and it wasn't really like anything more really different than a movie itself. So I was looking at Wikipedia to kind of see if there's anything notable about a screenwriter, and kind of comes from the real old playwrights type deal, writing plays for I guess all much longer in history, ancient Greek tragedies, dramas, comedies, all that sort of stuff. And there wasn't much that I didn't already know. It talked about script doctors, like if a director didn't necessarily like parts of a script or wanted kind of some general things rewritten, they might have a screenwriter come in to act as the script doctor to work in that.
Oh, interesting. That's a fun title.
The only thing, I think it's just kind of like a action you do more than so in your role. No one known as a professional script doctor that I know of. It's more.
I figured. Yeah. I just like the name.
One thing I did find that interesting though is that a ton of script writing is just completely freelance. It's not like someone's really kept on contract at a company for the most part. It's just the company, I guess, production studio will say, here's a general idea, go ahead and write a script for it, and they can decide to buy it or not, which feels kind of rough to have gone through the process of like writing a whole movie and just, okay, I was one of 60 scripts and just mine just gets tossed in the trash.
I feel like that just, from the very little I know about writing, that just kind of seems to be what your life is.
Yeah.
You're just a number, and you're lucky if you get picked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just kind of aspiring and maybe do it kind of not full time, or they must be doing other things. However, I was looking, and the amount of money made, like when your script, I guess, does get bought or chosen, can be pretty high. The amount of money they can make from having a script be picked can be pretty high, and over time, it's kind of really grown. In like the 90s, it was, I think, a big deal because Lethal Weapon, or it was 84, it was a huge deal because it was bought for $1 million. I think the record it claimed for most was a movie from 2005 called Deja Vu for $3 million, and then an additional $2 million when it went to production. So a lot of times the script we bought for a price with like something in the contract called, or they refer to it as against, a clause that specifies if it actually ends up being made, you get additional money. So they would say like that script was $3 million against $5 million. Essentially, you got $2 million more when it went to production.
Interesting.
So I guess in the case where you're writing all these scripts and a whole bunch of them don't get picked, if you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars for these movies when they do get picked, you don't have to necessarily have your script get picked all the time to make a decent living.
And I feel like you could probably do a couple screenplays in a year. I mean, you could be, it's not like you can only, you only have time to write one in a whole year and you're relying on that one getting picked up. I feel like you can kind of be doing multiple, especially if you're adapting them from like a book or something. It's not like you have to come up with everything originally. And
nowadays, I'm sure they're AI assisted for a lot of these ones, especially when it's not a high value movie and you're trying to pump out like a really cheap rom-com or a copycat of another movie, probably cut very corners quick. There. And that, for sure. Understandably, that's why the unions are very much against that.
Oh, definitely.
So generally, that was all I really kind of got on it. Nothing too groundbreaking or super interesting this time.
But like we said, like there was a lot to specifically look into with sci-fi, and I'm sure we'll also come into that with space as well. Rom-coms, it's just kind of point and shoot.
Who would be so superficial?
It is what it is. So, anyways, it's fine. I'm not overly concerned with learning too much about these. I just enjoy taking them at face value. So now it is time to jump into our Slept On It segment where we revisit our movies from previous weeks. So normally we'd go right into our movie from last week, but can I take a second to talk about The Notebook?
Yes.
So I didn't tell you, but this week I listened to The Notebook audiobook. So I heard the like original Nicholas Sparks story, and I have just a couple of notes because it is different. Like different. I mean, like,
I'm scared.
It follows the same general storyline. It's not like completely different, but I mean, the whole premise of the movie is they have this very like heated love story. Like it's very on and it's very off and it's like very intense. And they meet and she doesn't like him and he's fighting for her. None of that. They meet in about 4 sentences are in love by the end of the 4th sentence. Like they meet at the fair. They do meet at the fair. But as soon as the 4 sentences are over about them being there, and from then on, they were together for the rest of the summer. And then there was none of the fighting. And
so they glossed over it even more than the movie did.
Yes. So I was like, I mean, we thought the movie was quick with the introduction, but books the same way. There was no like love bombing, like him aggressively climbing the Ferris wheel, none of that. And like none of the fighting and bickering. That was not a thread in their love story. And maybe they mentioned something like talking about their later years, but it was not the storyline that it was in the movie. I don't know if they specified in the movie that whether Allie was a nurse in Europe or a nurse in America, but in the book she's a nurse back home. So I guess the soldiers then came back home and she cared for them there. Gotcha. And that is where she met Lon. He's 12 years older than her, I think, in the book. So, or maybe 8, I don't know, some bigger age gap than her. I didn't like his character as much in the book as I did in the movie. He seemed almost like he was his trophy wife. And just he didn't have like as many of the redeeming qualities I felt that the Lon in the movie had. And Noah didn't get any of the money for buying the house from his dad. He had worked with somebody between when he met Allie and when he was drafted, and he became really close with them and whatever, some kind of, he worked a bunch of jobs. I forget specifically which one it was. But this man like really took a liking to Noah, and he died while he was off at war, but he'd left a big portion of his company to Noah. So he got enough money to pay for the house through there. He and Finn did not also stay friends throughout their younger years, and they didn't fight and battle together. Finn did die in the war, but he wasn't right next to him. He was not next to him. Noah saw him one time before he was deployed, and then he found out later that Finn had died, so that did not continue. And then the last big note I had is that he only wrote 1 letter a month, not 1 every day. And I think it went on a little bit longer. And there also wasn't like that as big of a reveal with the letters. Allie was like, I didn't get your letters. Oh, my mom must have kept them from me. Like she wasn't as upset with her mom. Like there was not as much of that like reaction to everything. And I mean, I guess, making a movie, you want it to be a little bit more exciting. But I think a lot of the parts that I didn't like about their relationship in the movie were better in the book.
Yeah, I guess it would be a much more boring movie, though, if they didn't kind of dial everything up to 11 and throw in a bit more chaos there. Yeah, so it was interesting to listen to, especially having just seen the movie and just to really and I knew I would be talking about it here to like specifically look for the differences. So, I mean, if you have seen the movie and you want to read the book, it is interesting just to kind of pick up on the differences, but sounds like it's,
yeah, it's that, but it is short. It was a 6-hour listen. If you listen to it full time, most books I feel like average like 9 to 12. So it was on the shorter side. So if you want something quick, and if you're like me and listening to it on 2.5 speed, it's very fast.
Really fly through it.
All right. So now with that, we can jump into last week's movie, which was Crazy Rich Asians. Does your rating change after sleeping on it? You rated it an 8.7 and I rated it a 7.9.
Yeah, I probably could back it down to like an 8.4 or something like there. Under that, it was good, but I don't think there was too much more there. I think honestly, it would have. This is kind of like a weird thing. I might rate it higher, honestly, if there had been more like continuation of a series after that. 'Cause you said it was.
Yes, I have a fact snack coming up.
Okay, a series. So it was fine. It was pretty good. Bit different and still highly recommend it. But 8.7 seems a bit high. I go like 8.4. Sleeping on it more.
Yeah. I was going to bump mine up to a 9 because I just love it. It is just such a good movie. And I don't know. I feel like only time will tell. It's like too new. Like The Notebook, I rated it a 8.1 or whatever, because it has been around for 20 years now. It is something that is kind of like a quintessential romantic story in our age. And I do feel like this one will continue to be popular. It did so much culturally, being all Asian actors for the first time in 25 years. Like, it's beautiful. The location is amazing. It's funny. That I think this will stand the test of time too. But that's why I felt like I had to give it a 7.9, because it was like, it's still only 8 years old. Is it 8 years old? 18? No, 18. 6 years old. 6 years old. Yeah. So I don't know. But it's higher than a 7.9 because I love it so much. But I don't know, 9 feels too aggressive when I say it out loud.
Yeah, I think I think it's really good. I feel like I have a hard time justifying it being like too terribly high, but it was pretty enjoyable.
And I think that's why I went in with the conservative 7.9, and maybe that's what's right. My heart just rates it so much higher. Yeah. All right, and now it's time for some fact snacks. So my first fact snack is that the first class plane scene isn't real. They had tried to work with airlines to see their like first class thing, and they were in talks with a major Asian airline, and that fell through. So they just built their own bar and set and everything for that first class.
I imagine a lot of those sets are completely fake. Plus, I've also never seen a plane that has a bar on it that I've always wanted. So until I see one of those in real life, I'm just going to assume it's all completely fake.
Yeah, it's not something that's actually attainable. That just makes me feel better.
Like flying on like a blimp or something. I have all that space up there.
My next note is the bachelor party scene that was on the container ship was actually filmed in a parking lot. And apparently, I think it was the director said he'd filmed on ships before, and like it's really hard to get the shot because they're usually pretty like you're confined with your space, and like once you get the establishing shot, like people know you're on a boat, you don't need to do that. So they saw a lot of container ships when they were on location filming some of the other scenes, so they just got a shot of a container ship, and then they built the rest of it in the parking lot, which
you could probably also control lighting a bit better when you're on the parking lot there. You put up shades to get that when you're on a ship.
And the safety liability of being on the ocean, like I think that was definitely the smart move to go. So I thought that was interesting, and I did see a behind the scenes picture of the the set in a parking lot, which was really cool. My next note, I think, is my favorite fact snack. It is that the whole cast had a dumpling making party when they arrived on location. One is like a bonding activity to get to know each other, and also so they could actually learn how to make dumplings like the way they wanted to. Like
they've been doing it for more than an hour
for the movie. So I thought that was really cool, and I feel like I like those kinds of things where it's like the Friends cast. They all like went to Vegas before the thing came out because they knew they were about to be really popular, and like they all made dumplings. Just thought that was an interesting fact. And because my next note is on the wedding scene. The water is a hot topic of discussion of whether it's too over the top or practical or realistic. And that scene was actually not in the book. But the reason that they put that in there is because it's mentioned that the wedding is supposed to cost $40 million. And, they were saying like a lot of the high costs in wedding is like the food or the flowers or things that like, unless you're there, you don't really get to experience. So they were like, how can we visually show you really quick that this wedding is like super over the top? So like having all of the fairy lights and the water and like all of that stuff where like most people are not flooding a church for their wedding. And so I thought that was interesting, not like, we just added it in there because we thought it would be cool. It was more thought based.
I wonder how much of a trend that's become of people having flooded weddings.
I couldn't even imagine it because my thought, like, yes, it is very stunning and something that's you don't see all the time, but I'm like, you'd be wet. Like everybody's, I'm sure you could stop it from flooding down the aisles where people are sitting, but like all your bridesmaids' dresses would be wet. I don't know. That just my first thought. I don't know. All right. And then my last fact snack is that the sequel was originally supposed to be filmed in 2020. Like they came out when this movie came out, they were like, we have a deal for the next two. They're going to be filmed back to back. We're going to start filming in 2020. I don't actually know if COVID is what fell through with the filming because it seems like there might be some like
it was falling through before
more
that.
Behind the scenes stuff that was starting to fall through then. But I did see an article from April of this year that said that our hope is not lost yet, and that there is potential talks of it starting to film in 2025. I hope so, because I do feel like, I watched a couple interviews where they, like the cast was already talking about like, I hope we'll see more of Harry Shum Jr. They kind of show him at the end as being like the potential next love interest for the next movie. You kind of get that little like teaser, and they were like, oh yeah, we're so excited. Like we can't wait to keep doing it. So like there was definitely a lot of interest in doing more. That I hope it comes to fruition.
I hope we find out or actually see his dad in this one, because in this movie they're like, oh, his dad's like out on a business call, whatever, all this happening.
Yeah, I forgot that his dad wasn't like dead or something. Yeah. As soon as they're like, oh, he's away on business, I'm like, oh my God, I totally thought his dad had died. So, yeah, I think there is a lot that could be expanded on, and I do also have plans to listen to the book series. So maybe I'll have more snacks then. Also, this was Henry Golding. Is that his last name? The guy, Harry Golding, Henry. Nick Young. It was his first film that he'd ever done, like his first acting thing, and he's the star in a major motion picture.
Well, he crushed it.
He totally did. So anyways, it was a great movie. Again, if you haven't seen it, go see it. So now it is time for us to jump into what are we watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching Palm Springs from 2020. It is rated R. So now let's hop into our time machine back to 2020. Do we really want to do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe like we just go back and then go right back forward.
So anyways, the top 3 movies released that year were Bad Boys for Life, grossing $204 million, 1917, grossing $157 million, and Sonic the Hedgehog, grossing $146 million. Obviously, these movies grossed substantially less than other years, given the fact that it was 2020 and they only had about 3 months before all the movie theaters across the world shut down.
And those 3 movies, like Bad Boys came out in January, 1917 came out on Christmas in 2019, and then Sonic the Hedgehog came out in February. So it was like all of those ones that came out right before.
So there wasn't really much released after like mid-February.
Honestly, the top 10, 11 movies all came out before COVID. Onward was the last one on March 6th. And then September was in the number 12 was at the September.
And anyways, the top 3 songs released that year were Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, Circles by Post Malone, and The Box by Roddy Ricch. And I feel weird because I don't know probably any of them. Maybe you know Blinding Lights, but I heard that one a million times.
I know Blinding Lights and Circles. I do not know the last one.
The Box.
The Box, yeah. I can tell you I was not driving around in the car a lot in 2020 to hear any of those. Right. We also became parents in 2020, so life was already kind of fuzzy. And then...
And now we're just listening to Coco Melon.
Yeah. It's so fun being a mom. Anyways, have you seen it before?
I have not.
Nor have I.
And I know absolutely nothing about this movie.
Oh my gosh. You should have seen me trying to Google this. I would like type it in and I would cover up any pictures and I'd be like, okay, it's rated R and it's an hour and 30 minutes and it came out in 2020 and I'd close it really quick. And so like, I don't know who's in it. I don't know anything about it. Nothing.
Hopefully it's actually a rom-com and it's not like a horror movie or something.
I'm pretty sure the Wikipedia. I mean, I check that stuff when I am doing my light research beforehand. So, and you're the one that came out. So you're the one that added this to the list.
Really?
Yep.
Find out something new every day.
A long time ago when we started talking about this. We honestly probably came up with this list back in like March.
Who knows?
Would be my guess that, yeah, it's been a while. So, I am very excited because I know absolutely nothing. I feel like going into Bridget Jones's Diary, like I knew who was in it. I remember people talking about it or, like I'd heard of a lot of these movies that I feel like this one I'm just like the most blind about.
Yeah. I know nothing about it. I don't know if it was anyone we know have actually seen it or if it's just a little hidden gem there.
Yeah. Or is it just like a cheesy Netflix movie that is going to be really disappointing? I don't know. The possibilities are endless.
We will keep you guys posted and we'll let you know after we watch it.
All right, let's watch Palm Springs. Cheers.
Welcome back.
That was something.
That was not at all what I expected. Really wish we had given predictions beforehand.
I know. As soon as we started the movie and like credits were starting to roll at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, we didn't record predictions. And we were like, oh, well, every time it's a mistake.
I would have gone with something like maybe like some sort of spring break type of situation.
See, I originally thought spring break, but I was going like he works in a retirement home and like living this sad existence. And she comes to visit like grandpa and then romance ensues in Palm Springs.
Could have been.
This was not that.
Before we get too far into the movie, let's start with the wine scale. So generally our wine scale is, it's always a 0 to 10 scale. Generally it's heavily weighted because normally we're drinking top end wines. This episode, as we covered earlier, is kind of a mystery wine. I don't think it's anything too great considering we just kind of won it at a raffle, a free raffle at a race. So generally we're aiming for like, medium arm length shelf, like when you're going to the grocery store, grabbing a wine off the
middle shelf,
the shelf there, not necessarily top shelf or bottom shelf, kind of middle. This one would be middle bottom. So anyways, that implies that a generally score like above 5 is pretty good. Maybe buy it if you see it or get an order at a restaurant. Below 5, probably leave it. That being said, I'm going to give this one a 4.4.
I'm giving it a 5.3. I liked it. It was pretty average for me.
It was a little too just like sweet for me, even though it wasn't not super sweet. It was a bit too much just generic not sugar water. Like, I don't know. It wasn't complex enough.
I didn't get as many sweet vibes as you, and I thought it was pretty dry. Like my last couple tastes. I was really trying to focus on the flavor so I could narrow in my score. And I mean, I would drink it again. I mean, if it was just like I'm having a glass of wine on a Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like if we're not like if we're going like on the grocery store, we're looking like, oh, should we get this one? We've had it before. I'm like, I'll try something else before I buy that one again.
I appreciate that, but if someone was like, "Hey, I'm serving you this," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that was pretty good."
Yeah, I'm not gonna be like no.
It's really hard for us to say no to a glass of wine.
It'd have to be pretty sweet for me to say no.
Right. Well, I mean, I've experienced it, but it's very rare.
So anyways, the movie rating out of 10, generally that's a bit more different of a scale, at least than the wine scale. It tends to vary from season to season. This one, it's more of a gut feel. I haven't been going as deep into like the quotability, cultural significance as much, but it generally kind of plays into the score there.
I also just want to give you a quick shout out for having to explain the wine scale and the movie scale every week, because you do such a good job, like a way better job than I would do. And I just want you to know that I appreciate
We're
you.
getting so many new viewers every week. I have to do that. Or
right, exactly.
I will let you go first on your movie rating.
I am going to give this. I had one locked in and now I'm confusing it with my wine scores because I was fluctuating a lot on everything. I'm going to give this a 6.2.
I'm going to give it an 8.8. I loved it.
What?
I liked it a lot. That was fun. I want to watch it again. I want to look for details. I just liked it.
Oh, I thought I was being like bold with a 6 rating. I liked it too. I thought it was really good. I think I had your like rubric in my head of like, I don't know. I mean, like, would I like to see it again? Yes. I don't know if it's going to be like a Crazy Rich Asians where I'm just like mindlessly watching this all the time kind of thing, or like how quotable it is. But I thought it was really good. So 8.8.
Less quotable. One thing I was kind of thinking about while watching this movie is one thing I really appreciate is rom-coms, at least in the last like 7 or 8 years, have gotten better. There's more complex. It's not the traditional like, oh my God, I love him, but there's this minor little like miscommunication causes unnecessary drama for the entire movie and then ends up with a cliche ending.
Because that's so not realistic. I mean, like that might happen to, every random person, like a couple of random people, but like love and relationships are so much more complex than that I love that we've been like more diverse in the casting and the people and the stories and the family. And like, there's so much more to a relationship than a lot of what romances have been, that I do appreciate the just expanding thought. And this left me thinking.
This was just so novel in my mind. I mean, so let's go to the movie description before we get too much further.
Yeah. I honestly didn't take too many notes because I feel like it's just something that we just need to like talk it out.
I was living in the moment.
Right?
So movie description, guy is stuck in a Groundhog Day situation, reliving the same day over and over again at a wedding. One of those days he is hooking up with someone, accidentally gets her trapped in the Groundhog Day situation as well. And they deal with the ramifications of basically two people being stuck in that never ending loop. And it results in a pretty great rom-com.
All right. So the description according to the TV is, we have our adjectives back, I think.
Oh, buddy. Can't wait.
I can't wait. When carefree Niles and reluctant, we're already there. I'm only 5 words in. When carefree Niles and reluctant maid of honor Sarah have a chance encounter at a Palm Springs wedding. God, what's wrong with me?
The person must love that they got to use the word maid of honor. It's 3 words there. Palm Springs location, already 2 words. They must be like, yes, we are hitting our word count.
Right. A chance encounter at a Palm Springs wedding. Things get complicated when they find themselves unable to escape the venue, themselves, and each other. Kind of glosses over a little.
They hit the word count and they exited that real quick.
Yeah, they got in and then they got out. I will say I did see that before you clicked on it, it said comedy/romance/sci-fi because it was taking a second to, and I was like, aren't you clicking on it? And you're like, I'm trying. And I happened to look up and my eyes locked on science fiction and I was like, damn it.
My eyes were locked on that play button.
I was just trying to
little squint, make your eyes go blurry like you're looking at one of those like hidden image little puzzle things.
Yes. Yeah. I did see that beforehand and that made me kind of mad because
I will admit I did see J.K. Simmons' picture that he was going to be in it before I clicked on it.
So and I will also say like I'd seen the thumbnail before when we first looked at this, but I hadn't. I didn't look super closely at it, and seeing it again, I was like, I kind of feel like it's Andy Samberg. I had some but I was like, he would like, why would he be in this? It just because I knew nothing about it, but it just didn't seem like his thing.
We are big Andy Samberg fans, and
so, spoiler alert: Andy Samberg's in it, and we were psyched.
This was very different from Hot Rod, the last movie we'd seen him in.
Yes. Yeah, we're in a deep Andy Samberg phase anyways right now, listening to the Seth Meyers and Lonely Island podcast, reliving all of the Lonely Island digital shorts from that era. So good if you have not watched it.
I did see that Yorm was also a producer in this.
And so was Akiva.
Akiva, I didn't. It went by fast. I didn't see his name.
I saw it on the internet somewhere.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the movie description. How was the movie what you expected?
Absolutely not.
Hard no. Yeah, the science fiction, time continuum, mountain, lava.
I picture this more taking place
hole.
like at a motel type situation.
I mean, like I said, I had like kind of a retirement home or motel, like some very like cheap living place.
Did not see the whole Groundhog Day situation coming up.
And even as it was going, it still continued to be not what I like. Once we pivoted to like they're living in the same day over and over again, like they're having a wild time. It got so much deeper than that, and I was like, okay, I'm here for this.
How well did it age? I mean, it's been 4 years. I would say
It's
totally
aged
fine.
none.
Yeah, could it be made today? Probably. It was made 4 years ago, and not much has changed to stop that. Did they say the title of the movie in the movie? I don't even know.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they did.
They talked about Austin. They talked about Irvine. Don't think they mentioned Palm Springs at all.
Nope.
So did the title of the movie fit the movie? In a way, yes. And because it doesn't give anything away.
That's what I was going to say.
You get to come in totally blind.
It's almost like I think we were talking about it with The Notebook of like, you don't expect The Notebook to be what it is given that title. It's a very generic name. And I feel like this is that. And I liked that.
Because otherwise you could go like Love Loop or like Wedding Days. Because it's like days, like it's the same one over and over again. Groundhog Day 2. I don't know.
Groundhog Day 2. I did start like as soon as it like crossed my mind, I was like, oh, this is like Groundhog Day. Then that's like all I could think about during the whole movie. So that distracted me a little bit. I had to keep like focusing myself back in. But yeah, I think I like the title. Because I think it also kind of sets you up because, you know, if you know it's a rom-com, you're like, oh, like this will be like fun and like they're on vacation or doing something. And then it's just like completely different.
Blindsides you. Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things?
I think there's a lot of people that have done a lot of things, but nobody that has since blossomed. Yeah. I also feel like it was an older cast. Like Andy Samberg's 40, in his early 40s. The girl that played Sarah, Kristen, maybe something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
She's 38 now.
Last name starts with an M, maybe.
Yeah. And like Peter Gallagher.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. The husband was in Seventh Heaven. If you're a Seventh Heaven fan, he's Martin. So
a bunch of people. I imagine this was more of like an indie passion project type thing with a very fun script / screenplay.
Also, going back to our before show, I just would like to correct. I'm pretty sure I said it was a Netflix show, but we think it's maybe Hulu instead. So sorry, I misspoke.
Glad we caught that.
I just, in case anybody was like really fired up, I was incorrect.
Just Google it and you'll find out what it is. What impact do you think this movie had on pop culture?
I don't think it had any because I've heard nothing about it.
Nobody who has seen it.
But I'm going to start recommending the hell out of this movie.
But I could see it being heavily influenced by, like I've mentioned before, Groundhog Day, which is a movie we'll probably at some point watch on this pod.
We should. It's a good one.
Next Groundhog Day.
Ooh. Stay tuned for Febs.
Any plans for Groundhog Day? So we can check that one out later for the pod. Otherwise, I don't think it really had any impact, like I said. Do you feel culture after watching it?
No,
not really. But I do like the opportunity to comment on how rom-coms I think have evolved and changed, and it's not just the simple like cookie cutter.
I think in the season of watching rom-coms, I'm glad we watched it. I think to have watched the evolution of movies that we have from the 50s through to the 2020s. I mean, a lot of life has happened, and a lot of things like it's truly a different time now than it was. That I think it is really interesting to be able to watch this and be able to talk about it. Also, I just feel like personally, because we are so deep in a Andy Samberg life phase, like coincidentally, like we just happened to start watching their podcast, and we've been watching a lot of SNL to relive a lot of those digital shorts. that it just is like, oh, to see him in something else too kind of expands on that. And we watch Hot Rod, like we said. We almost potted that one too. I'm sad we didn't, because that would have been
Watched it a
extra
couple weeks
relevant
ago.
now. So yeah, it's like, I feel cultured in not necessarily in terms of like the greater society, but like in a lot of the things that we look for in this podcast, I feel cultured.
Right now, like being that we've watched all of these movies, we can talk about how the fact that like this is in the same genre as Breakfast at Tiffany's and The 7-Year Itch.
Yeah, with Marilyn
The
Monroe,
Notebook, and,
Audrey
like,
Hepburn, and
these were
Andy Samberg.
all, yeah, the same genre. Just it is wild. I think of some other genres like horror movies, like the CGI has gotten better, but it doesn't feel as radically different for most of them. This, I feel like it's really like had like a hockey stick growth, like change of getting of better quality, especially in the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, and I also just feel like that speaks a lot to how I feel like the standard for relationships has also really progressed. Of it doesn't have to be
the dumbest girl with a miscommunication and that suddenly resulting in love.
I mean, and just like in general, like not necessarily in movies and romances, like in real life, like mom and dad can work, or you can be in a relationship and you don't have to have kids, or I mean, like just like what a relationship is not what it was stereotypically back in the 1950s. And just like the roles that people play in their relationship look so different. And I just love that we're progressing.
To character and all that.
Yeah. And I think that's what's making it more interesting too, is that there is more character development, not just like relationship development. Like the characters really grow and change, or you get to know more about them. I don't know. I'm interested to watch more current rom-coms as they keep coming out to see what they look like.
Cool. So do you want to go first with your notes? Can't remember who went first last time.
Yes, I can go first. I think it's me. One day I'll come up with a system to remember, but for now, no. So my first note is Sandy Cohen, because I wish he'd played a bigger role in this movie. He's very much background in this, but
his eyebrows seemed more tame.
I thought the same thing. I mean, if you watch The OC and you know Peter Gallagher, they make many jokes in that show about his out of control eyebrows, and you just grow to love him, and they seemed a little bit more tame. I was kind of sad. But it was good to see him in something again. I haven't really seen him in anything recently that I can think of. And then my next note is How I Met Your Mother Mom, because that's what I know her as. I don't even really know her real name. I feel really bad, but I just know her as the one that comes in there, which just like feels crazy, because it feels like How I Met Your Mother ended so long ago. And she was like supposed to be like Ted's love interest, but like he seems so much older than us, and she's not that much older than us. She's 4 years older than us, 3 years older than us, 5 years older, something.
Sure.
She's closer in age to what we are, that it just like didn't mentally fit my timeline. But
yeah, I thought that she had like, maybe it was the character she was playing, but I feel like she's got like a really good like natural sadness like to her look.
I see that.
But she also, like I mentioned while we were watching it, that she reminds me in some ways of like Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
There's something about her that reminds me of that.
When you showed me the pictures, I 100% see it. I don't think I have enough of a like knowledge of Shelley Duvall's work to compare her like when she's actually like talking and moving, but I definitely see it for sure. Okay, so my next note is this girl that's the bridesmaid, that when she was giving her speech, the Misty, Andy Samberg's girlfriend, her bridesmaid speech, like she is the bridesmaid that everybody hates at the wedding. Like she's gonna get really drunk. Obviously, she like hooks up with the officiant. And like she's just the one that is just a mess. But you also kind of like love to hate her. If you're like a wedding guest that kind of has yourself together, and you're like, that girl.
Yeah, I thought she like kind of paused and they're like, oh, thank God she's done. Everyone like clapped her off.
Yeah, she was something. Especially like she had fucking jewels attached to her face. Like what was that about? I don't know. It was weird. Also, I didn't write this down, but backtracking to people that we recognized. Also, Crazy Rich Asians crossover. Trevor, who was the officiant at the wedding, was also Colin, who's
the husband at the wedding in Crazy Rich Asians from last week.
So, a little bit of connections. It threw me off at first because of his Australian accent, but I guess he had more of like a British accent But I mean, I guess they are similar. I think
he was Australian.
He is Australian in real life, but the Australian in this threw me off because I was more familiar with his work in the other one. But yes, so lots of is this like a kind of connection? Not really, but like at least a character crossover. I guess we did do 2 Julia Roberts movies. Was it Julia? Yeah, Mystic Pizza and Notting Hill. This season is a wild one. It's hard to remember what we watched. Anyways, my next note is So this is still like in the very beginning of the movie when Andy does that dance through the crowd and like grabs everybody's drink perfectly. So also we're watching this before he knows he like loops through. I was like, dance is pretty impressive just from like a filming the movie, like to have to choreograph all of that perfectly. Like I can only imagine how many takes it took to get that, like doing the dances right, like grabbing the drinks or like getting in the dance moves with the other people perfectly. Like I felt like that was a lot of choreography.
Yeah, that's what was like so weird for me, like watching it, because you don't know the twist that he's like lived this day possibly millions of times. It's such like a great, like, why is he seems like he doesn't care about anything. Why is he like crushing all of this? And it just seems so out of character.
The speech was so weird. You're like, because he seems so apathetic to everything. And then he's giving this like super heartfelt speech and you're like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Such a weird first act for sure.
And my next note is their cute little smiles and the confetti slow motion when she threw the like birthday party for him and they like the confetti's falling and she's just like kind of smiling at him and you just like I do love those like cheesy rom-com moments where you're like, oh my God, they love each other because they've been fighting. The mornings
when they wake up and their first thing they do is like kind of smile. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
So great. And that is actually my last note, but I do want to talk about how also I think it's interesting that the date is November 9th in this. And I've also, there's a Colleen Hoover book. If you are a book person, I've read all of her books or most of them. And she has a book called November 9th. And at first I'm like, I'm like thinking about this book, but in that one, it's not like a Groundhog Day situation, but it's a like relationship where they only spend November 9th together. Like they see each other one day a year and it's always November. Day. So I'm like November 9th, like of all the dates, like there's also a whole other book about this specific date that I thought was interesting.
That same day, but not the same actual day just each year. That's crazy.
So I mean like that, just like that weird like pop culture crossover of that same, so of all 365 days in the year to choose to have two like more pop culture-y references, I thought was really interesting. So I didn't really take that many other notes because I was just so caught up in what was happening. Also because it was so out there as far as like the science fiction element of it that you're like just like trying to follow what happens. But I loved the idea of like, what would you do? Like, I think that's what the like thought process of like, okay, if I was weirdly stuck in some like time loop, would I go through the whole like suicide thing that Andy Samberg went through? Would I like,
I mean, if your brain is constantly like on, because it's not that he ever has a chance to really even sleep. Like his mind is like go, and either like dies or like goes to the next day. There's not really any of that time. I think you'd probably go through some crazy peaks and valleys and some depression and some, desperation moments too.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. And I do want to ask, if you were stuck in a time loop for reliving the same day, how would you spend it?
I feel like I would want to like consume, like whether it's eating everything I can, watching everything I can, reading everything I can. Like I would just be like, all right, I've got my checklist. I finally have time. We're going to go through and like, wake up that morning and be like, all right, find the closest movie theater or place where I can like that house that you knew people were away for whatever. Be like, all right, I'm just going to steal their house, steal their TV and watch whatever this movie, or find a library, get all the books and just, why not?
Yeah, I do think it was really interesting that she was like, oh, I'm going to learn like quantum physics. And I was like, man, like you could really sit down and just like learn some shit if you committed to it. My thought was to travel, that like it would be tough because you'd have to be able to like get there and have time to experience it. But like my money in my bank account is going to reset the next day. So like I'll buy a plane ticket. And
there are worse like times of year to be stuck in than like November. Like it's a great time to be anywhere in the world. I will say it would be really inconvenient to be like, all right, I want to go to Germany and you've got to go like all the way across the ocean and then you got to stay awake. So you're gonna have to like crush coffee, caffeine, whatever you can do, cocaine to like stay awake through all that. And you probably won't be enjoyable. You probably feel like shit. And then suddenly you're back like that, right there. So then you've got to have that travel over and over and over.
I don't know that it would necessarily be back to back to back travel days, but I would get out as much and see as much of, I mean, even just like the US, just driving within a certain radius. Like I feel like you could get pretty far and see, I mean, she drove, I don't know where, like how long of a drive that she would have had to Austin, but like you'd be able to get a certain distance away just as far as driving goes to see things that like, if I had unlimited time, I'd just see a lot of stuff. I would also read a lot of books and movies and shows and like all the like the backlog I have in my head of things. So anyways, that was just my like last thing. It was like, how would you spend that time stuck in a loop? I would also spend it with you.
True. find you, pull you into that cave, and then
Yes. Honestly, we both were like, so like, how could we get stuck in this time loop together?
right, so much time, so many podcast episodes. It'd be the same one for everyone else, but we'd get to record them.
Yes, exactly.
That's what really matters.
All right. So onto your notes.
So my first note was just, well, Andy Samberg just totally was not expecting that at all. I mean, totally based on a rom-com. But
I love that we both were like, is that? Like, it was just a second of.
So you like see his like face kind of smushed, like he's like sleeping, and he wakes up, and you're like, was not expecting this, but yeah.
Love it though. No, so good.
My next note was, well, what the fuck? The whole like all of a sudden he gets like shot by a bow and arrow,
right?
And then he's like going into a cave, and then like so much out of nowhere. Like it's already weird enough that he was doing all the dance moves at the wedding, and everything was kind of weird. But you're like, okay, something's like kind of weird. I don't really understand it. But then like it just takes a real hard left turn.
And I feel like when he gets shot by the bow and arrow, it could have taken like a weird turn. Like it could have gone to some like weird, like apocalyptic, like crazy or like the Purge type situation. It could have gone like stupid weird, but I feel like it went like very good weird. I was really happy with the turn, but I mean, there was a moment where I was like, I don't know where this is going. I have some regrets.
And like it makes sense afterwards, but at the moment you're like, why this is not the movie I thought I was watching.
100%.
My next note was, how far do they run off like in the middle of the night to bang? Because the next night she's going like hiking, trying to find this cave, going all over the place, and she looks like she's like on the verge of dying. And I'm like, so in the middle of the night you went that far, and he like just took her remotely close to said cave. I know he like got shot and like ran for a while, but like how far are you really gonna run when you're shot? I feel like I would have been like, I'm gonna stay away from this thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's lived enough of these days where he's like, maybe I just want to be closer to the cave so I can just like bail and be done with today and not have to worry about like going to sleep and killing myself or whatever. But I would like a map of the property of where they're at, just to kind of like see where everything is logistically.
Yeah, just wild. Because I also have another note of even if I were immortal, I would still be afraid of all like the snakes and possible like things out there, because they go out there in the middle of the night.
Oh, absolutely.
Go out there like in the middle of the day. They're like all the times they're walking out there in the middle of whatever desert thing, and be like, yeah, still, even if I'd been over that place a million times, still not. And even if I'm immortal, can't die, don't want to be around those snakes.
I mean, but he says that like the pain is real. Like you still like he's slowly died in the ICU. Like he has lived those. Like the pain still happens. So I would avoid the stuff that I hate, snakes, like the plague.
Yeah, we're staying inside anywhere besides, just not going all that brush and everything.
I will, just speaking of them like hiking and being out and all that, I forgot about the like, I am the Antichrist or whatever with the earthquake. And that earthquake just happens every day. Just kidding. Like that was a really good joke. I really liked that. And I think because you're still like, as an audience member, you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then you're starting to catch on like, oh, he has experienced so much. Like he knows when this happens. He knows exactly what she's going to say when she freaks out. Like there's so much that he just knows that you're
the little bit with his girlfriend where he's like, not only has been around all the time, but he's like been around her enough where he knows like when she finds out that he's cheating on her, he can like literally copycat her for like 7 or 8 like sentences in a row.
So good. And I also feel like when you really think back on that like opening scene where they're like trying to have sex, it just like makes so much, like in the beginning you're just like, this is a weird movie, I guess. And then just like seeing like how much he's lived and dealt with her. And then you see her crazy as a bridesmaid and you're just like, okay, maybe he doesn't actually like her very much. And
it makes sense like why he would like know the perfume. Makes sense why he knew that his girlfriend was cheating on him. He's seen like every angle of that entire day. But still, the surprising thing to me was that he didn't know that Sarah had cheated with the fiance.
Yes, but I also feel like, I mean, like she leaves before in the morning, I guess in every iteration of it,
I guess so,
before like she really sees him. So I feel like she kind of doesn't even really remember, and they just are both kind of like, no one outside the two of them knows that it's not like it would be a more public thing. But I do agree that was interesting. I also just loved that like the perfume was the way he figured the whole thing out. Like, and is it one of those things too? Like I just felt like the layers of this. Like he's like, oh, what perfume? Or like you're wearing blah 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 perfume. Like he happens to know what it is. Yeah. And then like all these iterations later, he's like, I know the smell. Interesting. So interesting.
And I at one point was going to call out that her, like she wakes up that morning and like our phone's like not charged like 19%. I'm like, why did she charge it? Well, it turns out that wasn't her room. That's
and you can hear the shower. You can hear the shower every time she wakes up. So I knew she was with somebody. I would have thought it was her sister's fiance, almost husband. But I was always like, oh, like she hooked up with somebody. Like,
yeah,
that's fine. Like, you're the hot mess sister. Like, that's your role. Okay, fine.
It's the cliche.
But I did not expect it to be the fiance. That's pretty shitty.
The groom. Next note was that this must have been so confusing to film.
Right?
So you're filming the same scene, just different context, different reactions, different
same
things,
clothes,
different things that like different thing like it. Really wild to be like, okay, even you can probably film it very efficiently. Like you have that same set that same day, and you're just like, all right, we're gonna film this one. Okay, we got that one. Now we're gonna do it this time, but you're gonna do this instead for this exact same setup. Everything else. And
I think this is where you add script supervisor to your behind the screens research, because from what I know from like series is it's like they follow the script to make sure blah blah blah, but they also check to make sure that like the clock is set to the right time and like all of the background details. And I feel like the role of script supervisor is something that I didn't know existed until I listened to specifically Office Ladies pod, but just like this person that is in charge of being
looking
like
for continuity,
that just watches for all those continuity errors. And like obviously mistakes still happen, but like that they try really hard, because I did notice there was a continuity error.
Oh yeah.
In the final scene before Sarah like pieces out and has her explosive vest on at the wedding, because she like finally has her hair done with the flowers up in the final scene, because she's finally like gonna be there for her sister and like gonna put on the good show. But there is one scene where she's drinking wine where her hair is not in that flower before she leaves, and she looks like she does from the first scene of like drinking wine. And I don't know if they just like spliced that one in there or what, but I definitely noticed.
Yeah.
Something that somebody missed, but I saw it.
Dude, they even care. There were a couple of parts also where I saw where they were clearly fixing things in post, where they were like,
ADR.
Yeah. What?
It's where they have acted the scene, but then they go back in post and they record, like talk into a microphone and say their lines again because of like audio stuff. Because
they were doing things where like you'd show her face like out of focus from the side over the same scene, like unnecessarily, and I think they probably chopped it up a whole bunch of like various changing the words and then adding things out afterwards. That was like the only time I really noticed it was in that scene where he was
when they first got together.
I think it was the scene where he was showing her that the guy was cheating, or that
his girlfriend was cheating.
Yeah. My next note was that I would have spent way more time learning shit before leaving. Like once I found out or was pretty confident in the whole like quantum physics thing, I'd be like, all right, well now I've got all the time. I know my way out, my like escape hatch. So I'm just going to make sure I know everything. So when I like do go back to like the real timeline, I'm now like an absolute genius and just know everything.
That's true. Like learn a bunch of languages.
Yeah.
Take some cooking classes.
All the dances and everything that he learned.
Yeah.
Just, go ahead and culture yourself, but like, make you the best you, so that next day you're like, all right, well, I'm going to do life on easy mode now because I just like know everything.
I like that.
And then you can go travel. Be like, shit, I know every language. So now I can go travel the world. Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I like that for sure.
And my last note was that the bride reminded me in a way of the actress that plays Santiago in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Another Andy Samberg like reference there.
I can see it.
There's something about her that seemed familiar, but like it's not her, obviously.
She seems like at the personality too of like I'm so good. I'm so pure. I do things for other people. Like I see a lot of that in there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I'm trying to think back now of, did she even like have any real lines? Did she say more than like 3 things?
Yeah, I don't know. It was hilarious.
I guess she did.
Knocked her teeth out, but I don't think she was really even saying much.
Yeah, I don't know. But God, I'm still like, pieces are coming back to me as I'm thinking on it, and it was just very good. I'm honestly down to rewatch it again.
Yeah, it was very good. Watch it again every day.
Every day for the next 100. Something I really want to know is how long he was like truly stuck in the loop. Like I was like, how do you even come up with a system? Because it's not like the paper you have the night before will wake up with you the next morning. Like there's not.
You got to mentally keep.
You have to keep track of that, and I can see where you would like lose your mind and not be able to keep up with that. But I feel like I want to know how long he was in it. Like, could he really not remember what he did as a job before this? Like, I don't know. I had a lot of questions.
Yeah, he was definitely lying about some things, but
and I think that's why I had a hard time with that scene. Is like, you could tell he was obviously withholding some things from her, but then I was like, is he really like forgetting stuff? Has he been stuck in this so long? I mean, talking about all the times that he's been like dying in ICU or the quick deaths and all the things. Like, has this been like a year? Has this been like 5 years? How long is he stuck in the loop? I want to know. I'll never know.
Yeah. I don't think anyone can answer.
Yeah. But it was very interesting. Like, just so different. My brain is, I think I'm going to be chewing on this one for a while.
We got Annie Hall. Was Annie Hall also in this season?
It has been a ride, the rom-com season.
All right. So speaking of that, should we hop into a quick recap of
I was just thinking that.
We'll say.
So first of all, let me just run through the movies that we watched this season. We watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, and then we went back a decade to the 50s and watched The 7-Year Itch, and then we watched Annie Hall, Mystic Pizza, Notting Hill, Bridget Jones's Diary, The Notebook, Crazy Rich Asians, and Palm Springs. I am so proud of myself that I can remember those that quickly. And you're still processing it all too?
So I'm going to say give like a top 3 and bottom 3, but I think my top 3 are going to be the last 3 that we watched.
Yes, for sure.
My bottom 3 are all the rest.
But Mystic Pizza was also really good. I really loved Mystic
Pizza would be the 4th.
Honestly, I would put my top 3, I think, are in no particular order because I don't really have a favorite, would be Palm Springs, Crazy Rich Asians, and Mystic Pizza. And I think I'd have The Notebook in 4th.
I'd have Mystic Pizza in 4th. It was good. I still like The Notebook, unless you are strictly saying that. If you can make the case that The Notebook wasn't as much of a rom-com as it was like a rom-drom or just like a romance movie.
It is more of a rom-drom for her. We haven't even talked about rom versus com.
Rom versus com for this one.
I think it's 50-50.
For this one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
Maybe 60-40.
Maybe 60-40 or 55-45, but yeah, around
60-40 rom-com.
I was going to say 55-45 com versus rom.
Yeah. I just felt like it was, I mean, it had the chuckle moments, the things that were funny. And maybe
the
like not. It
was well placed.
It was not always like laugh out loud funny, but it was like, oh, you're strategically doing that to be funny. And I'm appreciating the humor here.
Slapstick or forced or anything. For sure.
Obviously they built this love and they have the cute little smiles and just like love for each other.
One thing that I want to also add to the culture questionnaire is, could you make the case for this being a Christmas movie? I don't think next season's going to have too many with space, but I do kind of want to in the whole, like, do they say the title of the movie?
Yeah. Could this be a Christmas movie?
Could you never know. Case?
There might be some space Christmas movies.
This one more of a Thanksgiving movie. It does take place in November, but
it's got those spooky vibes. I guess spooky season is October.
Yeah. Could this be also a rom horror in the fact that it's so scary they're stuck in the same day?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yes. So back to the rom-com season wrap up. What was we said we're talking about top 3, bottom 3. What was your like actual least favorite? If you had to pick one that was like the bottom.
Probably Annie Hall.
I think that's for me too.
Next one I'm thinking is 7-Year Itch. That one was so disappointing.
I don't know. I think Breakfast at Tiffany's was more disappointing. Do you remember how chaotic that movie was?
Yeah, I still feel like 7-Year Itch because the whole like iconic Marilyn Monroe thing is right, like the first and only Marilyn Monroe movie I ever watched. I'm like, that was just not great, not very interesting. Mystic Pizza.
Notting Hill was just Notting Hill and Bridget Jones's Diary, I think, were the most disappointing, given that they were
7-Year Itch was most disappointing, and then it was Notting Hill and 7-Year Itch for me.
I think just like not being bad, but just like especially Bridget Jones's Diary. I think Bridget Jones's Diary was the most disappointing for me because we like grew up when that came out, and I was like, oh, like everybody's talking about this. This is this great rom-com, and I just felt like it was just very boring.
Yeah. So I think like I don't know. I feel like maybe we probably could have watched like better movies, like for sure, for each of these decades going forward. So I still want to watch like more like culturally significant rom-coms and like and build up all that.
I think for this season we were trying to watch ones we hadn't seen before though. Like I think we both we've watched a lot. I mean, at least I'm cultured in the rom-com genre, and you've seen your like fair share too. That we were really trying to pick ones we hadn't seen, and so that limited us in some ways. But like we threw The Notebook in because we had seen it, but it was like so significant we couldn't not watch it, that I think that we could do another rom-com season eventually.
I think if we kind of expanded it more to instead of just rom-com, but more like just like cheesy romance movies, I think you might have had more enjoyment out of some of these. But maybe we just had like a really bad list that we chose.
And there were some like, because we considered for the 2010s doing Love, Simon, because we both love that movie, but we felt like that was more of like a high school rom-com, and that felt like it was in a different league than the movies that we'd already seen so far. So we pushed that one aside, that maybe we could do kind of like a high school romance genre, because I feel like that's its like Easy A and Cinderella Story.
We probably should have done like a Brat Pack one.
Yeah. And honestly, like we need to just do a Brat Pack season. We really just need to have like, the problem is that we have to drink wine while we watch these movies, and that it's really hard. It's like not like we can like batch record a bunch of these at once. Like it is really just something that we can only do like once a week.
You know, for one season, do we do like a season where we just do a pod kind of like we're doing now, where we kind of like go over high level synopsis, but we watch like a bunch of movies, you know, and then have like one pod to kind of condense all of that just to get through some of these, so we don't take 75 years to watch all these movies, because at this rate it would take 75 years to watch.
Right.
To, you know, even if we just did like nothing after 2014 and we just watched all of it before that, it would take forever.
Yep.
We might kind of have to do that at some point and be like, okay,
I'm
we're
not
gonna
against
have like
it.
a season of seasons.
I am not against it. Yeah, especially like we kind of maybe, I mean, because rom-com season took us forever, that several months ago, like maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, we're like, okay, we're doing the rom-coms, and then like we want to do space because we loved the sci-fi season, but then like we want to do like war movies, World War II movies, but we also want to do sports. So we have like lists.
Backlog.
We have like seasons already planned like way into the future. But
Yeah,
then we're
life is
realizing
just so busy too.
like we have 2 small children, we have a social life, like we travel a lot, we do like lots of things, that we have like a year's worth of season, like Culture Night seasons planned out. But then it's like, God, like I have to wait 6 months to see this movie, and like it is hard to balance that. We're gonna have to come up with something.
It's harder like on some nights where we just want to watch a movie, but we're like, oh, but that'd be a good one to save for the pod. Then we don't watch it. That it might be easier to just kind of be like, okay, this week we're watching 7 movies, and then we're gonna do one podcast next week about it.
Ooh.
So we'll see how that goes.
I'd be tempted to try it. We're open to anything. Yeah. We're easy breezy
There's
here.
no rules.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, we'd have like, you know, special things like we'd maybe do that for the general feed, and then have our patrons get our individual thoughts on movies if we had like a Patreon. But that's not who we are.
It's not at the cards right now. But we do love, like we love this so much that it is sad, like when we get in these ruts where we're so busy and we're so out of town, and the idea of sitting down and like doing this feels too much. It's like, but we love it so much, but life is just a lot that I wish it was something that was like a lot easier to just pick up and do on top of everything else we have going on. But we will figure out a balance. We still love doing it. We will still be back. We will be back with our space season. First, I started thinking too far ahead.
Can't make promises on when, but we will be back.
Yes. And if you're enjoying this podcast, if you could rate and review wherever you are listening, we appreciate you. And if you are kind enough to be watching us on YouTube, if you could subscribe to our channel and give this video a like, we would super appreciate it. Also, if you have any comments, if you want to leave them on the YouTube feed, any thoughts for future seasons, future ways that we can
email us.
Yeah. You can email us at culturenightpod@gmail.com.
DM us on the gram. You can even tweet us. We don't really check that one as much, but like,
yeah, I know. Honestly, since it was transitioned to X, I was kind of out on that one. But, you know, if you have any thoughts, please send them our way. If you have any season suggestions, or if you have any, like, this is how you could do this more efficiently, we're open to ideas.
Or if you want to be a guest on the pod, I'll also take that too.
Maybe we might even have some guests in our space season.
All right, let's do it.
We might have had some interest from some friends and family, so stay tuned for that. So anyways, if you're enjoying this, stick around. We'll be back, and that wraps up Culture Night rom-com season.
All right. Cheers.
Catch you in the next one.